It is always such a pleasure to talk to the people who are doing similar work to mine in the creator space. And one person who comes to mind who I look to as an example when I was building my podcast is Damo McCullough. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm blessed. I'm happy to be here.
Well, I'm happy that you are here. And it's been amazing watching your journey, by the way, and seeing the different topics that you cover with your podcast. And not only that, as I said in the show notes, and I'll read again, the technical expertise that you take and the quality of content that you put out is just head and shoulders above what anybody else I see doing. So I really admire the approach that you've taken to this and what you've done from a leadership standpoint and then from the standpoint of helping the enlisted sailors. So we're going to talk all about that. But before we get started, welcome to the Stories of Service podcast, Ordinary People Who Do Extraordinary Work. I'm the host of Stories of Service. And to get this kicked off, as we always do at the beginning of the show, you will hear an intro from my father, Charlie Pickard.
From the moment we're born and lock eyes with our parents, we are inspiring others. By showing up as a vessel of service, we not only help others, we help ourselves. Welcome to S.O.S, Stories of Service, hosted by Teresa Carpenter, here from ordinary people from all walks of life who have transformed their communities by performing extraordinary work.
And for more than 5 years, Damo has built a platform that blends humor, candor, and experience to spark meaningful conversations about leadership, military life, and culture. With over 550,000 YouTube views and 100,000 downloads across platforms, his show resonates with listeners who value honest dialogue and real-world perspective. And today we're going to talk about his journey from a sailor to now Command Master Chief, why humor and honesty are powerful leadership tools, building a podcast that connects both inside and outside the Navy, and lessons learned from 5 years of doing authentic conversations. Welcome again.
Mm-hmm. Hey, can I tell you something?
Sure.
So honestly, I never thought I was going to make it to this podcast, to be honest with you. So we did Permission to Speak Freely. Damon wasn't there. Shout out to Damon, my boy. We started this together. And Tish wasn't there either. It was just me and you.
It was.
But after we did Permission to Speak Freely, then you did like a episode with some lawyer that was like the president's lawyer. Then I saw you do an episode with somebody that had like some surgery that was botched from, all respect.
Oh, yeah, Staff Sergeant Carter. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and the lawyer that you're talking about is Tim Parlatore, who's an amazing.
Yeah, and then it was like somebody else. I'm like, oh no, I'm never. Permission to Speak Freely is never making it to Stories of Service. So I'm super happy to be here. I'm glad I'm here.
Well, thank you. That's such a nice compliment, and I really do owe it to the audience and the listeners who bring guest suggestions to me and are willing to come on the show and talk about really hard things. And we're able to get into some of these really interesting discussions in this format on live stream. And I think it's just a testament to the people that are willing to come and share their story so deeply. So thank you so much for the kind words. Now, I always start off this show, especially for those people who serve, to say, where were you born and raised and what inspired you to originally join the Navy?
I was born in Philly, raised in Philly too. I spent about a year in Jacksonville, Florida with my aunt and uncle who were both in the Navy. So my aunt, my uncle, aunt was a lieutenant commander. She retired as a lieutenant commander. Uncle retired as a CMC. I lived with them for about 10 months. And then those 10 months, just the lifestyle that they lived, I caught their retirement paychecks a couple of times. It's buddy I never saw, and then like all of their friends, they all had like, no officer friends, but all like CMCs and Master Chiefs, right? The whole friend group with all CMCs and Master Chiefs. And that would inspire me to go to the Navy. At one day, out of nowhere, I'm in a recruiting office and I'm like, hey, I want to, go to the Navy. So that's what it was.
That's so cool. And it really is a testament. And I say this all the time when people tell me how they've joined, because I ask this question quite a bit. It is so much like if you know somebody or somebody talks to you about the service, that's what inspires you to do it. And that's why I feel like it's so important to keep those ties with the veteran community, to do that networking with the parents and with the schools, because those are the ways in which we hear about service. I personally didn't. My father served; he was drafted in the Army, but and I didn't have a military background. It was kind of a fluke for me to go. But most of the time, when I hear someone tell me why they joined, it's because they had a family member who served, or a mentor in their school encouraged them to join. So it's really interesting to hear that. And when you joined the Navy, did you know what job you wanted to do?
Yeah. So it was all all of this is credit to my uncle. So my uncle was an engineman when he was in the Navy before he became command. And he used to wax poetic. He used to smoke. This back in
Yeah,
the day, he was
sure.
smoking stuff. So he was telling me about when they stopped smoking and they cut that out the Navy and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
he just would like wax poetic. I went to Florida to get out of Philly, right? So I went there to
Mhm.
figure something else out. So when I was in Florida, I became an electrician, and I went into the apprenticeship to be an electrician. And my uncle, he said a couple of things. He was like, "Do what you want to do,
Mhm.
and get a bonus." So I wanted to keep being an electrician, and I got like 12,000 when I enlisted. So all of this, like the whole time, I'm like coached by my uncle. He coached me through boot camp. He coached me through pretty much my first year in the Navy, and about 3 months of us talking.
I love it. And you know what? When you said the whole thing about smoking, I will reveal something as well. And he knows who he is, Andrew Sword. He was a friend of mine as I was joining, and he was the same way. Good pot smoking dude, just would hang out with him constantly. And he's like, Teresa, or Terry back then, Terry, I think you should do this. I think this is a really good idea for you. And at the time, I was like, you just want to get rid of me.
Right. I mean, my uncle wanted to get rid of me. So
But I didn't understand at the time that like he was really giving me a gift. And and to this day he still comments on my Facebook every now and again, or likes a post, and it's really neat. I mean, I really do credit him. He was the biggest influence for why I decided to do it. I had a roommate that served as well, but he's the one that just kept saying, I think you should do this. I think this is really good for you. I think it'll really get you out. And the thing was is that he was in the army. I had totally forgotten that when before he mentioned that in a Facebook comment that he served in the infantry. And then I was like, oh, right. He did go through the army boot camp. He was in for, I think, just a couple of years. And so he knew this was a great opportunity for somebody who needed a sense of direction. And that sounds like what it was for you as well.
yeah, it was a good place to channel everything that I already had going on, like a good place
Mhm.
to channel it. I was doing stuff. I had things. I got a family member right now, and I think they need to go in the military. That's why I'm comparing like where I was at that time to where he was. I was
Sure.
making music though. I was like just that's all I was doing. Like I did that every day, but they probably didn't see what could come out of that because they wasn't hearing none of it. So
Hmm.
it was like, hey, what about this? And I just did it.
Right. And you knew that there was something there that you could do and be skilled at because you already had that background. So you
Mhm.
get into the Navy. Tell me a little bit about your first few years serving. What were they like?
The goal was to make music. It was to get out, open up a studio, and make music. That was my goal. That was like for the longest, probably up until I made Chief. Honestly, that was my goal. That was my gift. But
Mm.
the first couple of years, I was broke. Like that money, that E1 through E4 pay is low, and I did all the things they said we shouldn't do. I bought the car with the high interest rate that they said I shouldn't do. I went and rented a PlayStation and rented a TV and set myself up to where I couldn't make the. We went on deployment and I didn't have like it. It was physical payments, so I
Mm.
had to go in to pay. So by like the second time we got paid on deployment, they was hitting me up saying I owe money and I had back pay, and it was some kind of scam thing they did, but they wound up getting my money for most of my first deployment. So most of my first deployment, I was broke. But outside of being broke, I went for everything. So it was a seller. I remember her. Her name was Megan Staples, and she got Blue Jacket of the Year. And I remember I had two third classes, and the third classes to me were larger than life. Like
Yep.
these were the guys. Like it didn't have to go past these guys. And they were like, they was like, damn, they gave Staples seller a Blue Jacket of the Year, and they was like, she deserved it. She got an E.S.W.S. And the way they were talking about it, I'm like, damn, I want somebody to talk about me like they talking about Staples. So I worked hard. I worked hard and the hard work, the work ethic came from my uncle because all he did was work. That's all he did. Like when I woke up in the morning, he was out working either on a pool, a car, something like that. He's working right now, and I know he is somewhere just on some work. And then when I went and became an electrician, one time when I like as an electrician, that some of the guys were smoking. They were on a smoke break. I didn't smoke, so I just took a break. It was like my second week on the job.
Right.
The foreman came, the job foreman came up to me. He's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm taking a break." He was like, "Why?" I'm like, "Cause they are." He was like, "Yeah, they paid their dues. You didn't. So you." So I got back to work, and from that moment on, I worked so hard. And needless, this is Jacksonville, Florida, right? So the demographics are skewed in Jacksonville, Florida. I was the only black kid on the job, and I was young too. So I'm probably like 20 years younger than everybody else, and I look different, act different, and present different than everybody else too. I'm from the city, they from the country. I'm driving. I'm broke, but my aunt had a Benz. I'm driving a Benz to this electrical site. They all in like trucks, pickup trucks and stuff. And
Right,
I,
right.
I worked so hard when I left that job. Those guys, like, they loved me. They
That's
loved.
awesome.
And so that gave me the work ethic when I got into the Navy. It gave me that work ethic. And I just worked. I just pushed those first 5 years. It was a push.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really is when you're junior enlisted. But what I love about the Navy is that there are always things that you can do that nobody can take away. Like you say, you can
Yeah.
work on your E.S.W.A.S, you can work on your EAWS, you can be the person, as I was in my electrician shop, where I understood how to fix certain things really well, really fast.
Yeah.
And I just sort of became indispensable at doing those particular what we call gripes. And so it led to so many opportunities. And that's what you do. You find your niche. You find that thing in the military that you can do and do well and
Uh-huh.
keep doing it. And then you will be like, there was even like a time where I was kind of getting bullied and I wanted to go to the tool room. And I remember my chief was like, I'm not sending you to the tool room. We need
Yeah.
you. We need you in this work center. You are not going to just go to the tool room. You're not going to go escape from your problems and sit in the tool room and hand out tools all day long or sign things in, sign toolboxes in and out. No, that isn't what you're going to be doing. So yeah, it's really
Yeah.
true. I mean, you just got to prove your value.
Yeah, I had a chip on my shoulder too, coming from Philly, right? Just the city. That's just the way it's like New York or Chicago, right? You have
Mhm.
that chip on you, you got something to prove. And then I came from a hip hop background, right? So again, it's a competitive hip hop is like a competitive sport. So again, something to prove, right? So
Mm.
every stage of like, so I always let's go to having a voice. I never thought I didn't have a voice, So even if it was like a dog barking at the moon, I was gonna be that dog, like just
Yeah.
I'm saying something, right? So from cranking, I went cranking. I did my FSA first stint in the war room. I always had advocates too. I always had people that took care of me. But again, like I said, I always had a voice. So I wound up becoming an MWR president as a second class. And in those days, that was a big deal. It could only be a first class. So just being able to meet with the captain, the XO, and the CMC and just have like unfiltered conversations.
Mhm.
Like, and the reason why I bring that up, because I always say I think those experiences, like on my first ship, they spoiled me. I never had a moment where I didn't feel like I could say what I wanted to say to whoever it is that I wanted to say it to. I never was like pinned down like that from the
You had
first.
good leadership. That's what it was.
I had great leadership. So
Mhm.
my CO, my second CO, he used to listen to I'm a big music person. So it's a jazz singer. Her name is Melody Gardot from New Jersey. He used to listen to Melody Gardot, and it's like when she was first coming out, and I did too. So me and my CO used to trade albums, right? And the
Cool.
thing that I want to say about that is that was just me and my CO, EM3 McCullough and my CO. Imagine the connection he had with all the rest of I'm sure if he had that connection with me, he had a connection like that with all the rest of the sailors on the ship. He
That's
was
so cool. You're reminding me of like my good leaders, like, now Admiral Brad Cooper, now Admiral Joe Cahill. There's just a few that really, Admiral Bill Byrne, that really stand out as just these amazing leaders that I knew anytime I had an issue. I never really abused it or did it, but
yeah.
I knew I could talk to them. And we do have a couple people on here. Melody Gardot, I love her live double CD.
Yeah, my lady Gardell. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
great.
And Darren says he's relating to what you said about that feeling of being able to talk directly to your leadership, and he remembers that as a command fitness leader. So that's, you know what? That is why you should take those jobs. Not why.
Yeah,
You should take those jobs because you want to be in a position of leadership and you want to take care of your sailors, number first and foremost. But number two, you do get to see behind the curtain a little bit of how an organization is run. And then once you're understanding of how an organization is run, you have an ability to make more of a meaningful impact because you understand the pieces that are in play and you can understand the why behind certain decisions. And you can translate that to your sailors that may not see that type of visibility and may not understand why things are happening the way that they do.
yeah. One of the biggest experiences in my career was them telling us that they were wrong. The triad. Our
Mhm.
triad actually told us they were wrong about something. We had a command picnic, or cookout, whatever, however
Sure.
you want to go about saying it. And we wanted face painting. We had like all these things for kids. Like we had all these things planned for kids. Now, mind you, I'm a second class. My vice president is a third class, and my secretary is a third class. So it's a second class and two third class talking to the triad, COXO full bird captain, CMC. And we presenting this picnic like, hey, kids. And they like, no, it's gonna be a waste of money, waste of time. It's not gonna be too many people bringing kids there. A lot of people don't show up to these things. We like, I'm telling y'all, it's gonna be kids there. So what wound up happening was they cut all that stuff out of our, out of the plan, and they just we just kind of went with a plan without things for kids. And then the day of the picnic, a bunch of kids showed up, but people left. They left real fast because there wasn't nothing for the kids. And the joy I had, saying I told you so, to try as a second class being able to say, and they apologize. I never, again, like I said, I'm spoiled. I got to see my captain, my XO, and my CMC apologize to me as a second class, like super early in my career. And it's more than that, right? That's just from my perspective as a second class. But they were like, we were wrong, And then that's what we said, because you just can't tell me you're wrong. I gotta put salt on the wound. I was like, hey, sir, respectfully, y'all put us in these positions that were voted by our peers, and y'all want us to assess and bring y'all what people want. Respectfully consider the fact that we assessed and we know what people want when we bring it. And they was like, okay. But they wouldn't let us do a nail painting. They said no water guns on the ship and no nail painting competition. You can't do that.
Well, and it's just interesting because those are the kinds of leaders that like we all want to work for. Like we want to work for leaders that can admit when they're wrong and can humble themselves. It's a sad day when we're working for those people that just can't do that. They haven't come to a place in their own leadership style where they can see like, oh yeah, you guys have a better idea or a better way to go about this than we do. So let's do it your way. And it's always a judgment call as a leader too. Like sometimes you have to be the one to say, no, I'm sorry, but we got to do it this way. And here's why. And sometimes there's going to be people that are never going to get on board with you, no matter how hard you try. And so you have to kind of pick your battles and decide what are the things that you have to die on a hill on, and what are the things that you can let go and have done. As long as it gets done, it doesn't matter if it's done your way or not. So it's definitely a judgment call. So when you went to your next ship, tell me a little bit about that, and if it was similar in leadership, or was there any new challenges that you encountered?
So my next command, it was shore duty. So I did 5 years on the ship. Then I went on shore duty. Now I'm going on shore duty, and I'm going on shore duty with all this empowerment from this ship, right? So my first, just for context, right? I never saw an eval that wasn't an EP. Just for context, every eval from the first one, my first year, I followed Staples. I got Blue Jacket of the Year, right? So my first year was that I was a junior sailor of the year on that ship. I left that ship with 5 NAMs and a couple number 1 EP. So I'm getting to my next command, and I'm just like, yo, what is this place? And it was waterfront readiness at the Naval Academy, where they got the yard patrol craft, where they train midshipmen on seamanship and got there, it's like, man, I'm in the sticks. What is that? Mayberry? Is that the name of that city? But I'm like, yo, I'm in the sticks here. So it was a lot of stuff happening. I was very vocal. I was combative. I was, I caused a lot of friction on the account of me thinking I'm being an advocate and a leader to my people. At some point in my time there, I got fired as an LPO, and
Wow.
for like a month. And
Mhm.
I had to write a letter and say things about, but I snapped on, some leadership, and it was internal. Like I chose to work for 13 days straight, and I was antsy, and a situation happened. Some leadership came into the office, and I was taking my first lunch in 13 days, and they tried to stop me from taking a lunch, and I snapped. But it's like, if you keep giving somebody something, eventually they expect that, from you. And they want to fire me. They want to fire me for that. But again, another successful tour. We did a lot this time because it wasn't a lot established. So I took a lot of ideas from the last ship. I took a lot of empowerment from the last ship, and we built a lot of programs at that command. So it was one time I had like 4 programs, but they were all programs I built. They were all programs that I created. So it felt good giving programs that I created off to other people.
I love what you said too about being able to. I mean, it's not often that I'm on a podcast with somebody, and I try to do it myself, where I look back and I can see what I did right, and I can see where I fell short, and there were things that I could have done differently. And it's really wonderful to hear you kind of juxtapose the two feelings, because that's really what leadership is all about. It's going to be the good times when things go well and you're, sailor of the year. I mean, I've had those same experiences where I felt like I could walk on water at certain commands, and everyone loved me and I was doing great. And then I've had sort of the other extreme where I pissed off the wrong person. And like you, I'm very vocal and will speak up sometimes. And sometimes I don't pick the right battles to speak up about. And sometimes I go a little too far, or I passive aggressively go a little, like I told you before the call that I'm going to be talking about. I mean, I made a little mistake. I took a little anger and a little resentment into another direction, and I got burned. And I think sometimes that is justified because we can let our egos take over. And so I commend you for being able to recognize that.
Yeah. And Teresa, what you just said, that was the goal, right? Like, that was the goal that I learned, is to pick your battles. Like, don't fight. A great fighter, like let's use Mayweather. Some people might disagree, right? Mayweather not fighting every fight. Like, are the great warrior is not going out there and fighting every single fight. You got to be strategic. It gets to this point where you're just the fighter. That's just you. You're gonna be the combative guy no matter what. You're gonna cause friction. You're gonna raise your hand. You're gonna. It got to a point where that was me, and I had to mature in that, and like strategize and know exactly when to strike a blow or when to actually do something. Not everything is worth that.
Right. Yeah. Not everything is. And again, I liken it to the Kenny Loggins. I just used this song the other day when I posted a picture of me and Tim Parlatore, and I said, it's like you got to know when to. I won't sing on the show because I'm a really bad singer, but it's like you got to know when to hold them, know when to walk away, know when to run. You better count your something.
Yeah.
You know what song I'm talking about?
You gotta know
when to hold them.
Know when to hold them. Yeah.
Know when to walk away. Know when to run. You bet. Now you're gonna get me to start singing it.
Yeah.
I love it's The Gambler. That's the song, and I love that song because it's really just an old man telling a story on a train, but it's really just that life lesson of choosing your battles. And I have a little chills just thinking about the song. I mean, I listen to it like on repeat sometimes because I feel like it's like a reminder that is such a truism about life is not everything is worth the battle. So
yeah, I got put at attention there before from somebody I love now. Like, we love each other. I got love for her, like a lieutenant. I love her. She loves me. Last time I saw her, it was on my base, and she get to see me from putting me at attention as a hard-headed first class who only wanted things to be good, right? But just hard-headed, to now the CMC of the installation that she's at enjoying her lunch, and she's
so
like,
cool.
She's like, Damo, I'm like, Miss Davis, hey, we hug, we take pictures, but she put me at attention before, and I hated her, but I love her now. That's like one of my favorite people.
Yeah, that's like the, the cycle of life is to understand that concept and be able to be able to know when you could have done something a little bit differently. So after this command, let's
Mhm.
go. Is this now? Are you now at the command after this command, or was there something in between?
Nah, so yeah, so I went from the ship to the shore duty. So I left this command as a first class. I
Mm-hmm.
left, yeah, I left Annapolis as a first class, and I went to Cali. I went to the I went to I forgot the LCSs.
Mm.
LCSs. I went to LCSs. I worked at region LCS. So I was what you would call unplanned loss. So what I did as unplanned loss was I would go to either variant LCS, the one variant or the two variant, and I would do electrical work. And being as I was an engineer, they always needed an engineer on some ship. It's
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be a pipeline, you know. I'm like, like y'all gonna send me through the pipeline? They like, no, you just get OJT. You could qualify. You could qualify on the ship. So I did shock trials on one of the LC. I think it was the Jackson. I did shock trials. I was in Singapore on the one LCS that was stuck in Singapore for like almost a year. I was there for a little bit. It was a good experience. I made chief. What got me out of LCS so fast is because I made chief. I made
Mm-hmm.
chief on LCS.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, I remember. I think did you have the podcast when you made Chief? So let's talk about like when the podcast started, because you've had it for 5 years.
Mhm.
So was it way later on, or in the timeline, or are we around the time that you started the show?
It's crazy how fast things happen. So I was at LCS for like 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
and then I went to my ship. It was for 3.
Okay.
And I started the show about 2 years into my time on the ship.
What ship?
It was the Peralta, the Rafael Peralta in
Okay.
San Diego. So I
Mm-hmm.
started the show about 2 years into the time. So I had about a year left, I think, or a little less, maybe 10 months to a year left when we started the show.
Got it. And what was the genesis of how you went from being a chief on the ship to now I'm going to be a podcaster?
So I used to, man, we used to have so many jokes. And shout out to all the other chiefs from the mess, but I used to call myself like everybody's chief or something like that. We used to just have so many jokes, but it was me and Damon. Me and Damon. We just a few things happened, right? A few things happened. So the story of how we started the podcast was it was this event. It was like a 4th of July event. And I think this was a COVID deployment. It was a 4th of July event or something like that. And when we came back from it, a lot of the women on the ship were talking about they were harassed or touched the wrong way. It was a lot going on Liberty. And this was like just beach or pier liberty. This was like a beach liberty. Matter of fact, I think it was in Guam. So we get back and we get in the Chiefs mess and we having conversations about how to address this. And I'm a little younger than some people and stuff like that. So I'm always thinking progressively. I'm like, well, let's just bring them all to the mess decks. Let's have an event where we just, I had a name for it, but I forgot the name. I'm like, where we just have an open,
Yeah, where we talk about it, where we talk about our problems.
yeah, because I'm like, it's a trust barrier. They got a barrier of trust. And I was the semio as well, right? So like here we go, kind of double dipping, right? I'm like, but it's a barrier of trust. And this was the response. It was like, well, they can trust us. They should be able to, and they should be able to talk to us. I'm like, yeah, but they're not because it's a barrier of trust. They're like, yeah, but they should. And I'm like, yeah, but they're not.
Right.
After like 8 of those, I go to Damon and I'm like, hey, Damon, we need to like do something about this barrier of trust. So me and Damon had already been talking about doing like a leadership series thing or something, a 7-series podcast or something like that. But this point now is just bred out of frustration. I'm like, yo, Damon, let's go have a conversation. Another thing happened in that scenario was we had a first class who emailed the Chiefs mess. He emailed the entire mess. And
Mm-hmm.
he was like pretty much cussing us out about the sexual harassment stuff and like how are we gonna deal with this stuff. And somebody responded to him and kind of chewed him out for the way that he was addressing us. And I was like, oh man, I go to Damon. I'm like, yo, and me and Damon had already kind of circled back to that cell and had one-on-ones with him to figure his frustration out and how we could help. But this person who responded to him just chewed him out for his approach to the Chiefs mess. So then he responded. He had another email. He was like, just like I figured, the Chiefs mess chewing me out for how I'm saying what I'm saying. and not addressing what I'm saying.
The actual problem. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, man, yo. So I just, at that point, I'm like, man, I just want sellers to see that we could be different and not to put us all in this same, like we were just like the last kind of thing, right? It was that same Guam Beach Liberty. I was talking to one of the E2s, and you know, he was talking to me like I was like always a chief. I'm like, yo, dude, you think I was always a chief? He was like, yes. And I'm like, no, I wasn't. So what I wanted to do was bridge the gap. That was really why I started the podcast, was to bridge the gap. I didn't even expect a khaki audience, honestly.
Right. Yeah. So when you first started it, did you intend for it to be a podcast, or was it going to be just 7 episodes from your personal accounts, from your partner's personal accounts? Like, how did you start it logistically? Did you get permission from anyone to do it? Because this is a while ago.
We got permission. So okay. it was going to be 7 pillars of leadership, but we scrapped that idea pretty fast, right? Mm-hmm. But before we went out, we reached out to the San Diego PAO, and we sent her like 3 advanced copies of the podcast, and she told us she liked it, and she told us what we could and what we couldn't do. Oh, well, she told us what we couldn't do. And like, that was like, don't talk OPSEC, don't talk about ships and stuff like that. So we just wanted, but she was like, outside of that, nobody could stop you from having conversations. And we were talking about beards, like our first, so we did, it was like a 3-episode pack that we gave her. The very first episode of our podcast, we didn't put it out till like four years later. The first one we recorded, it's actually called The One About Secret Pilots. Right, because it became a secret pilot episode. It never came out. The one we put out, the first one was called The One About Trunk Space. So when we first started, all our episodes were called The One About Something. And the reason how that came about, because we were passing off episodes to people on the ship. Like, hey, check this out. And somebody was like, hey, I listened to your episode. I was like, which one? He was like, The One About. I was like, I got to rate to it. So like and then somebody came up to me one day. They said, I like how you title your episode like they do on the Friends episodes. And I never knew that. I'm like, we gotta stop that. We can't do that over. So, but that, that was kind of how we started.
Yeah. Did you? And I wrote this down because I didn't want to forget it, because of the genesis of it, of wanting to have these like the real talk about sexual harassment, because I've taken on people who have been sexually harassed, sexually assaulted. Now I'm on the other side with people who are sadly falsely accused. And at the heart of those issues, other than the problems in the legal system that I've seen, that I feel are there, is the fact that men and women who are young and in isolated places don't communicate quite well sometimes, especially when alcohol is involved. And sex is on the table. And so I'm curious, did you address any of those topics in some of those early episodes, since that was kind of the genesis of why you did it?
That's a great question. I love it and I hate it. Right. I love it because it's a great question. I hate it because it hurts because I had a dream episode and it was about sexual assault. Honestly, it was about sexual assault. When I was talking to you earlier about being an MWR president, I was talking about my secretary. My secretary at that time, when we had that conversation with the captain and the XO, she was sexually assaulted. And it was really, really bad. Like, the dude's in jail for life. A lot of stuff happened, and I always wanted to like reach out to her and have the conversation. I just, honestly, I still have not at this time. I have not had enough in me to be like, hey, can we talk about this? Like, because it impacted me just because she was a friend and she was a hard worker and I appreciated what she did for what we were building. But man, it's super selfish because it really impacted her. Like, her whole life is different, from that situation. A lot of lives are different from that situation. So, and I still have not had a conversation. So over time now, we talked about sexual assault and stuff like that. But in those first few episodes, I didn't think we wanted to do it. First off, we wanted to do it with a woman, and we wanted to do it with a group, like with a VA. And I had a couple things set up, but they all fell through. some VAs, like their commands wouldn't let them. Early in our podcast, like people commands wouldn't let them record with us. It was a lot of that when we first started. So it took us a while. We couldn't do it early.
No, I understand. And it's these are incredibly hard shows to do. And again, now that I'm doing it on the other side of where I think some of the cases didn't go as well as they should, it's just as hard. It doesn't matter which side of this that you're on, whether or not it's a legitimate crime or it's a crime that maybe wasn't a crime, that maybe there was some sadly some incentive to gain by making an accusation. Either way, it's a really hard subject because there's so much shame and there's so much guilt and so much just problems with the legal system that nobody has a good answer for. And unfortunately, I think those are the conversations that we're going to have to continue to try our best to have. I'm still having a hard time having them myself. I mean, every show I do really stays with me deeply when I cover these issues, because I also know that I could be triggering victims by having shows on about people who I believe are falsely accused. And so I have to be very careful to say, no, I do believe there's legitimate victims, but I also believe there's people who weaponize the system. It goes both ways. And it's a tough thing to solve. And I think that only with good due process, you do that. And speaking of which, one of your co-hosts is a former paralegal. So I think that's really exciting that you have that perspective on your show.
Yeah, it helped us out. Like, yeah, she definitely, like, it's like, all right, let's get you on and make sure. Yeah, she because before her, and still to this day, I ask for grace for my ignorance. Like, hey, can you give me grace for my ignorance? I don't know everything. And the way that I ask questions or the way that I think is way more analytical than emotional, right? Is way more, the empathy might not be felt, so to have her on and her have some of the legal jargon and her just it kind of legit, it kind of made it a little bit more legitimate than it already was.
Yeah, she was a big help for me, even at this command. I think you remember I reached out to you because I knew Tish was a paralegal or had been, and I was made an investigating officer. And I just wanted some outside opinion of sort of, can I trust this process? What am I? Because I done so many shows on the IG process. I was a little untrusting, and Tish really put me at ease and really helped me feel good about the process and that and the JAG I had a command JAG that was actually really helpful. And so between the two of them, I felt good going through the process, and I think I delivered a quality report. So it's definitely a hard thing, but that's one of the wonderful things that you have is you have two co-hosts. So you have Tish, and then I don't remember the name of your other Damon. So he was the one who was with you from the start.
Yeah. Me and Damon started. It's our name on the logo and everything, right? So the craziest thing is when me and Damon started this, we hoped to build like this community, right? This living, breathing community. I'm gonna be honest with whoever's listening or watching. It's not easy to build a community. It takes work, right? No. So if you build it, like they will come, right? But if you water it, eventually it's gonna be a plant, right? And you gotta take care of it. Like you still gotta can't just plant a seed. You gotta like do work. And we full-time sellers. We both enlisted, going through careers. But but I say all that to say that Tish was the first outreach person that we got on. So me and Damon were going at it for about 3 years or something like that. We bring Tish on, and as me and Damon always wanted to build a community, like you just said, like it'd be people hitting us up and they want to talk to Tish. Like, hey, can I get some advice from Tish? So we are now in this year finally getting to like it being real community based, like people reaching out, asking us questions. It feels real good now, and it feels like it's growing. But at one time, it was just like, hey, I'm going through this. Can I talk to Tish? Hey, I'm going through this. Could I talk to Tish? Only thing I would get is like dirty urine, right? Like, hey, I didn't do the drugs. Help me out, Damo. And since I was an ADCO for a little bit, I'll be able to help them out. But Tish kind of opened that up too. Tish is the first person that one of our clips went viral from on TikTok.
Yeah. She's really good. She is really like even keeled and I think the world of her. And I was really helpful for her advice. She really put me at ease. I mean, we talked for probably like a good hour that day about because I had researched how to be an IO. I took all the different instructions that my JAG gave me. But as you know, when you become an investigating officer, you don't get any like formal training on how to be an investigator. And I took that job very, very seriously because somebody's career was on the line. And somebody who'd served for many, many years, their career was on the line over this. And so I wanted to make sure that I got to the truth of what this was. And I just wanted to talk to someone outside my chain to make sure that I was doing everything possible to ensure that I was delivering justice on this case. And I learned a lot through the process. Like, I'm really thankful my command gave me the opportunity to be an IO, because now if I do a show about somebody who's been a subject of the investigation process, I have a little bit of knowledge of the process because I've been a part of it myself. So I thought that was really helpful. So I'm grateful that she did that. So you start the show, you're at that, your last command where you start it, and all of a sudden, and you're doing all these other things too, by the way. You're doing these promos, you're making the reels because you have this filmmaker background from college. So you know how to do all that stuff. And your reels, by the way, are the best reels still to this day that I've seen on like any show. And how did this come about that you were going to just continue it? Like, how did you maintain that? I mean, I could ask myself the same question, but I'm curious from your, because you're still in a hard charge or active duty job, whereas I kind of took sort of a down ramp. So how
and I got a 20-month-old. That's true.
Like, that's right.
That's the biggest challenge right there. Well, what I want to say is this: we've built what I don't think people see is that we built an ecosystem of, and it's still building, of us like non-special warfare podcasters, right? Like, so we built an ecosystem of that's like, yeah, and we share a lot of game, right? We share a lot of inside ball that a lot of people don't see. So I'm communicating with people about equipment, because now you got people that have been doing podcasts, but now you got me coming in who went to school for this in some capacity. So I know a little bit more about the technical aspect, right? So now somebody like D-Guts, for instance, who might have been doing this might be like, hey, Damo, what mic do you use? Or hey, what program you use for this or whatever? And we've built, and then I might say, hey, D-Guts, what, I'm looking at StreamYard and what you do. I'm like, we want to do something like this. So like, what, what's next steps? And we built that, right? So that helps to keep going, just having that ecosystem of like-minded individuals. But
I do the same thing, like with Nikki from MGTV or with you. And especially when there's like a controversial issue that's going on in our Navy community. It's like the Navy podcasters are the ones that really they care about this issue, and they're impacted by it. So it's really great to bounce those ideas off one another and say, well, what do you think of this? Or are you going to cover this on your show? I always loved it when there was something controversial or something newsworthy going on. And the next thing I know, I'd see Damo and your team, your crew covered it on the podcast. I'd be like, yes, they're addressing it.
I'll tell you what, Teresa, it's easy to stop. The easiest thing to do is to stop. The hardest thing to do is, especially with a 20-month, especially with I just heard her stop upstairs. So especially with a 20-month-old and a wife, and so and I gotta salute my wife Angeline just for having enough grace and space to like let me do these things that I love to do. But honestly, I think what keeps us going is the love and the community that we get to build, and the fact that we having conversations that seem like people never really had. Like, it's like these things are like, hey, like they saying a quiet part out loud.
That's such a good way to say it, Damo. It's the quiet part out loud.
Yeah.
And I've had those same moments on my show with people. And it's crazy because it's just through a computer screen and you're still able to get that deep with people. And I think that is so important because there have been people on my show that have never shared something that has happened to them. I had a Crystal Romeo comes to mind. She had, and I've had, it's actually Lauren Palladini just recently, same thing, where they'll like really prepare. Lauren sent me this beautiful outline of her advocacy. She fortunately had a torn uterine artery that to this day will never allow her to have children. and she can't sue the Army, even though it happened on active duty because of the Ferris Doctrine, that whole thing.
Yeah.
And she's waiting to hopefully get some kind of a claim, submitted and compensated in some way, which of course will hurt her back for what she's lost. But she's just sent me the most beautiful outline, and she allowed me to keep it. So if I've got other advocates that are nervous and don't really know where to put their story, I now can take Lauren's outline and I can send it over. Crystal was another one where she had this just beautiful way that she laid out her story and she read it. I've had people do that before too, where they'll send me either something to read or they'll read it. And I'm okay with that too. I'm like, you got to get your story out there. It might be all over the place. I mean, Darren, and he knows, I think, he knows it too. He was a little all over the place when he gave his story, but it was such a powerful story. And I'm so glad he did it. Darren Lopez, I think he's still on the call now. And he just blew me away with his honesty and his vulnerability. So like you said, Damo, it is the quiet part out loud.
Yeah. And you talked about extending outreach, right? And like, that's what you were just kind of talking about. And that's what we've been doing now. So that keeps us going too. And we always tell people like, hey, people don't understand, like when you're not getting paid for this and stuff, sometimes engagement is fuel, right? Like you gotta engage, like, comment, share, do something, because that's what lets us know that we are alive, right?
Yeah, that we're making an impact, and like people actually listen to us. We're not Joe Rogan, we're not Sean Ryan, although I love Sean Ryan, love Joe Rogan. We are not those people. We are small time podcasters. We're not Green Berets and Navy SEALs, although I love Green Berets, Navy SEAls, and infantry. We're just never going to get the same kind of love that those shows get, and then that's okay. I'm totally good with that. It's just. Yeah, that's how we know we're doing a good job is by people like, sharing, and commenting. And by the way, on that note, we did have a new first-time listener who says, Darren recommended this and said this is a great podcast. So thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. And yes, Darren is still on the call. So did give him a shout out. Darren Lopez, please check out my show with him. It was very good. So
yeah. And I want to pin one thing real quick, Teresa, about extending the outreach. When it, like, a lot of, like, I'm not gonna say a lot. I hate that word. Often you hear about a seller who never had a positive Navy experience. Like often we hear that, like, oh, all chiefs are garbage, or just the Navy sucks, and stuff like that. So what another thing we want to do is give them another side of that. Like, no, it's not all. It's not. This could be somebody else's experience. So like I told you when we first started, I was spoiled. All I had was good experiences and great leaders. Right. I came into the Navy. So when I finally ran into like a horrible leader or somebody that just wasn't that good, it was like, I was almost like I ran into a Mack truck, like, hey, what is this? But I was easily able to navigate past it because I knew what right looked like at that time. So just what we doing on this podcast is helping a lot of young sellers see, like, no, it's a different side of this. And the last thing I say, what surprises me the most about it is when we get chiefs that hit us up, like, hey, my whole mess is going through this, or this is going through this. That's really what surprised me.
That's such a good point. And Damo, it's one of the reasons why I won't just do advocacy focused podcasts. Like, it's very tempting as a person who likes to push change and likes to point out what's wrong, for me to only do those kinds of shows or shows that are criticizing the military. But because I know, like you, I've had some amazing leaders in the service, and I've had some incredible experiences at the hands of wonderful leaders. In fact, next week, I'm having my mentor, Ron Dean, the tech rep that I served with when I was enlisted, who was an amazing mentor and friend for the last, 25, 30 years. And I would have never had those experiences had I not joined the service and had I not done the things that I did or been given the opportunities that I have. So I never forget that. I never, ever forget that. And so that's what I also love about what you're providing, Damo, is you're giving them that space to see good leadership in action, because sometimes people do get disheartened. They get burned out. They go down that negative Nancy road. I know I can do it as well. And they don't see the good. And we have to remind them constantly of all the good that there is from service.
Yeah, I see Damon in the comments too, and that was kind of like my secret, right? So I was like, "Yo, I'm gonna be the technical guy." Damon is the great leader because I was
Mm-hmm.
a senior chief when I was a chief, so I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna be the technical guy and kind of be the B mic." Damon is the great leader, but what wound up happening was I wound up naturally becoming that. I think the A mic, and Damon kind of fell to B mic, but and then we grew together. Like everything kind of grows together, so it's
Yeah.
been fun.
Well, we have one other comment. She's also she's interviewed me, I think, on her podcast, Cheryl Cross. I haven't heard from you in a little while, but it's great to hear from you. Don't stop, keep it up. Podcasting is not a get rich quick or ever scenario. I love doing mine for transitioning military and raising the voices of 100 military civilian. Yep, I was one, and veterans in the workforce. It was a powerful series. Yeah, I really did enjoy your series, Cheryl. I remember. And funny enough, Cheryl was the one who told me I should run for office, and now I'm not running for office, but I am in a graduate program for veterans who are thinking about running for office. So thank you, Cheryl. It's wonderful to hear from you. It was a powerful series. I'm creating the next series, Military Spouse Employment, and we'll launch by November. So we'll be watching out for that. Thanks, Cheryl, for the comment. But
Hey,
yeah,
Cheryl.
yeah, it was nice of her to come in on the comments on LinkedIn. So really appreciate it. Love it when you guys participate in real time. By the way, I know my listening audience will catch the show later, but it's amazing when we have these real time conversations. And it's one of the other reasons, other than the transparency issue, why I go live is because sometimes in the comments people will ask better questions, or they'll, oh, you're still on there, Cheryl. Awesome, woohoo, yes. And it's just neat. It's neat to have that interactive back and forth with your audience, and you can't do that without being a live show. So
Yeah,
that's another thing.
I like it. Well, we've been talking about going live, so it's a new thing, right? I'm looking at it in real time. I like it. I like all y'all out there. I like it. That's good.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I do have a promo code, so you can save a little bit of money if I send you a link. So I will send you a link after the show through StreamYard. I've had no issues with it. I'm not plugging StreamYard. They're not paying me to put this out, but it's a great streaming service. It has never done. They also get back to you when you write the help desk, because I've lost streams before. Or I've not been able to stream sometimes, just very occasionally in the, whatever it is, 4.5 years or however many years I've been doing the show. But yeah, no, I think it's a great program. And my God, we're almost at the top of the hour, which I honestly cannot believe. So tell me, I knew the time was going to go quick with you. What has it been like for you now as a podcaster, but also as a command master chief at the same time?
Oh man, it's honestly, I feel blessed that first off, it's tricky, right? I say it's tricky because you never know who's listening. Like you
Sure.
Oh, every now and like even with like other CMCs, I might get a nudge like, "Hey, Dad, I heard your podcast." Like I give it to you in one example, one story.
Okay. Yeah.
So I got a CMC, my boy Rich Balmer over at NRC Baltimore, right? But my first time meeting him, he came to my command and he was introducing himself as like a kind of like an administrative tenant of my command. So he was introducing himself and we were talking and he was asking me for like a list of things that he needed some help with. And prior to me getting there, the regime, they just weren't that connected. So it was kind of like a reintroduction and they had a new commander and stuff like that. So everything he given me, I'm taking it, I'm writing it down. I'm going to help him. I'm finding help in real time. And then he's about to leave. And before he leaves, he's like, "Hey man, I want to tell you something." I'm like, "What's up?" He was like, "I listened to your podcast, man." He was like, "I like it. I'm a fan. I'm a big fan." And for me, I felt like that was an integrity test, right? Like, what if I wasn't helpful? Or what if I wasn't the guy that, I present as on a podcast and I was a different dude? Like, that would have been a whole skewed experience for this guy. And it wasn't like that. I was who I, kind of say I am. So I feel like the podcast sometimes could be an integrity test. It's also another thing for me, just how self-conscious, like just admittedly, just a self-conscious person. I never want people to think that, and I know Damon probably on the same page if he's still here. I never want people to think that anything that we've got or achieved or when we started a podcast, I was a chief. Like just an EMC going through right? So, and it's been 5 years. So I went from chief to senior chief to CMC. So I never want people to be like, I'm so self-conscious about it being separate. I don't even talk about it at work. But every now and then, like a seller will come up to me and they listen to it and they might say like a joke that I don't even remember. Somebody had a reference that I didn't even remember the other day, and he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, man. I made it awkward." I'm like, "No, I just don't remember it." So it's like a litmus test, I think, too. Like, hey, are you doing everything that you say you would do? I can't imagine myself on a podcast talking about leadership, talking about doing great things for people, and then like getting exposed on Facebook for being horrible. Like this dude's a horrible leader.
I hear you, and I am the same way. The pod it's funny because I've had a show almost as long as you, not as long, and it is the same thing where someone will meet me in person, and I tell people, I mean, I do the same thing. I hope, I think I am the exact same person that you see on the internet that is in person, and the way that I led sailors and the way that I worked at work was no different than the way that I work on my podcast, because now I have a show. I have an assistant who, shout out to Evie. She's now got a full-time gig with Parade Deck. So I'm really excited for that. And she and I have been working together, oh gosh, now about 9 months. And it's been amazing to have some help with the show. And shout out to Parade Deck, who has been my media company and helped me quite a bit through the last couple years of the show. So we all do this with help. And this becomes a team of people who do this, and like you said, Damo, there's small time shows like ours are not in it to make money. We're in it to make an impact, and I think that's also what makes it beautiful. I mean, Nikki MGTV is the same way. Even though he's got a big YouTube following, he's in it for the impact and to give these news stories a voice and to entertain sailors. And it's a joy. It's a joy to watch the podcast community. Martin Foster is another one. I'm going to the Military Influence. You really need to go to the Military Influencer Conference, Damo. It's coming up.
The name, the title, influencer, I used to have issues with it.
I know.
I'm kind of one of the other things I wanted to say was, though, I used to be skeptical about my junior sellers listening to it, especially as a CMC, right? But what I realized that it does, because of how honest we are on this podcast and just how transparent we are on this podcast, it separates months of like disconnect, or months of guardedness that like the sellers will have. It breaks all that down like super fast. And so by the time I'm talking to my seller, they already know they could just keep it real with me because they've listened to the pod. Like, hey, I listened to your episode, Master Chief. I hear y'all cussing. I hear y'all acting a fool. I hear y'all, talking about good stuff. I know they feel like they know me already. That familiar, that like time it takes to get like familiar with something, it's wiped away. So I actually love that about it. I used to be skeptical about like admirals and captains listening too. Listen to episode 84. Listen to episode 57. Don't just go in there cold. You might catch an episode that's not for you. But right. At the end of it all, it is what it is. It's me.
It is what it is.
Unapologetically me.
I know. That's how I feel too. Like, really, my show and the guests that I have on and the issues that I come across are a reflection of my own personal curiosity about certain topics and things that I always wanted to see exposed in the workplace. But like you, there was always a reluctance to talk about certain issues. And so I saw the opportunity to build a show where we could have these real conversations. And so I'm really happy and blessed, like I said, that I have a small audience that I can have these conversations with. And sometimes I can be a little spicy. And especially now that I'll be having a DD-214 in 4 days, I will be able to be a little bit more spicy and not, like I said, to slam the Navy or slam the military and give them a black eye, but to be able to really speak freely and know that I can do these things and I won't get a nasty gram to my chain of command or something along those lines. So I think it's a really great thing that we're able to do this. And I hope too, us being on active duty, we're showing other sailors and troops that they can do this too. I mean, and not get fired, not lose their job. They can still advance. And it might be a little harder. Every now and again, you might get a side eye. You might get, a nasty little comment here and there. But at the end of the day, if you're following all the rules and you've cleared it with your PAO and your JAG, then you're doing the right thing.
Yes, it's like one of the things I say, it's a blueprint. Like I said, I was a chief. You know, if you listen to this as a young seller from, and we get a lot of them now, like, hey, thanks for episode 84. This
Hmm.
is this, and like they growing. We got an audience that's growing with us. They advancing with us
Cool.
and stuff like that, right? But to watch it happen in real time, it. Damon was a senior chief. Me and Damon are both CMCs now. You know, so a young seller listening, it's a blueprint there. It's
Yeah.
5 years of
Content
how to
work.
be a good seller.
How to be a good sailor, how to put across a message. And there are a lot of great podcasts out there in the military community. And that's, like I said, there's two conferences. I've not been to MCon yet. That's coming up at the end of October, military conference in Las Vegas. But there's also the military influencer conference, which is Curtis Riggs owns the company that
Mhm.
pushes that out, and it's an amazing event. I went to it last year, was super impressed by it, and it'll take place in Atlanta at the end of September. So I'll be going there. So something to think about later on if you ever are interested in becoming a part of those events.
I
It's a
thought
great
about
way
I
to
want like I got a sister that I never met who lives in Atlanta. My mom
well
gave
you.
her up for adoption some years ago, and like, well, when she was a baby. So I
Hmm.
want her to meet my daughter. So I have actually thought about going to that event. I just didn't. I knew I was going through a transition because
Sure.
I'm going to a new command in September. So I didn't know how it would line up.
Yeah, yeah, no worries. I think it's the last week in September is when it is MIC Military Influencer Conference, but I highly recommend it to people, and I'm excited to go to MCon as well. So end of October, I'll be in Vegas at MCon, and I have a friend who lives there, Rondine, the one I'm having on my show next week. So it'll be a great opportunity. Now that I'm also retired, I can travel a little more freely.
Yeah, you can
So,
move
so
around.
that's nice as well. But before we finish up the call, we're kind of at the top of the hour. I try to keep it to an hour. Sometimes it goes over, sometimes it goes under, but usually over. Is there anything else that I didn't cover down on, or in particular that you want to say to our audience before we get off the call?
I mean, I'm just thankful for the space. I'm thankful for everybody that's in it. I'm Damon for five years, of us doing this thing, and it's our fifth year this year. And it's certain things as you look at things, Teresa. You have good moments, you got bad moments when you're doing this, and to the other people that I think Cheryl, who also has a space like this, is ups and downs, right? Uh, but it's appreciated when people step in and some of these comments they feel good just to read and hear, and it just keep people going. And sometimes you just need that fuel. So I just appreciate, first off, uh, family, wife, daughter, God, and I appreciate Damon for being there from the beginning, us starting this thing, and kind of just holding it down. And I appreciate you and every other creator in this space. And like, let's keep it safe. Definitely, trust me,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be a gatekeeper in the space. And I don't mean
Yeah.
stopping people that's doing the right thing, but if somebody in here for the wrong reasons, you're not getting no help from me. I tell you
Yeah.
that for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's keep it pure. Let's keep it pure, and continue to help out these sellers because they need it. And this is the way to deliver it. They not reading those nav admins no more. They not looking at those
That's
tech
a great point.
manuals. Like, this is the way that they are consuming this information. I hear sellers like, hey, I don't even hear about these things when I go to work.
Yeah.
They put these headphones in and they hear some real stuff coming from real people that's going through what they're going through in the moment.
Yep.
It's nothing bigger than that.
That's so powerful. And you're so right. The podcast evolution is here. And the ones that get on board with it and know how to utilize this space are the ones that are going to get their information out to the people. And we can be and I'll say this and then we'll get off the call, but we can be your biggest advocate, Navy. We can be your biggest advocate if you'll give us a chance. We want you on our shows. We want your leadership. We want your guidance. We want you to contextualize hard issues. When there's a controversial issue, we want you on as a guest. And we want to be able to ask you those questions so that our sailors understand why decisions were made. So as time goes by, as you know, I'm hopeful that more and more will agree to do that because it's these long form conversations where problems get solved. And people feel seen, heard, and valued. So thank you so much, Damo. I really appreciate the time you spent with me tonight on the show, and overall just your friendship in the last couple of years.
Thank you. Like I said, I love being. I never thought I would. I'm not going through no court cases. Living with the baby. So
right,
I appreciate it. I'm so happy to have been here and us to share this space for the last hour.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'm going to go full screen. I'll meet you backstage to say goodbye, but just want to go in a full screen mode and say goodbye to my audience. But thank you again for joining the show.
Okay.
Awesome, guys. Thanks so much. I think I have just one show next week. I had 2 last week, I think 2 before. Sometimes I've been doubling up as I get closer and I inch towards that retirement date of September 1st. It is almost here, almost 4 more days. So very excited. I got my retirement ID card yesterday, so it's getting more and more real by the day. I think they're about to decide my VA claim, so I'm on the track to get all those things done. But thank you for joining us. As I always close out these calls, please take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Bye-bye now.